What's up everybody, and thank you for joining me for another video. My name is Whack4863, but you can call me Whack. Today I want to talk about the Age of War Chapter 1. Now, there is more coming with the Age of War, as I have noticed and as I've been told and as I've seen from what the devs have said in their live stream. However, I feel like the season start of the Age of War is very soft. I started looking into what actual content we got, and I feel like we received the least amount of content out of any of the seasons so far. Now, obviously, this is only the second season, but I feel like I have an obligation to say this and have it out there before future seasons are developed. You see, with the Age of Sorcery, we regularly saw additional power being added to the game. We saw an additional gameplay loop being added to the game. Another reason to venture out in the world and find the resources or find the different specific items to continue to strive to be a better player or a more dominant player. However, with the Age of War, I feel like what we're getting is a loot loop and not really a loop that is going to give us more power. Essentially, we are stocking up and filling our coffers for what seems to be a revamp of a system that's already in game in the Age of War Chapter 2 when they release the change to the purges. And I can't help but think that this is a big miss for Conan Exiles. I feel like when you look at previous updates, when you look at previous chapters, when they were released, even before we had seasons, those chapters or those updates always came with a chase for more power. There was new legendary weapons to go after. There was new armor to go after. All of these things were integrated into that patch, and it really gave people another reason to load back into Conan Exiles and seek out that new piece of equipment, that new item, that new legendary, and that is the reason why I feel like a lot of people came back to play the game. When Sorcery launched, it was the same thing in a different package. There was a new reason to come back to harness the power of Sorcery and see what it was all about. If we look back to the most recent age in the first age, you can see the pattern of chasing after new power. When the Age of Sorcery Chapter 1 launched, we had sorcery to discover. We had to find sorcery, learn sorcery, and see how that gave us more power or more utility in the game. Then Chapter 2 came out and we got a whole new way to purchase power in the game. And I'm talking about purchasing legendaries. I'm talking about purchasing black blood tools, all with in-game currency. It gave us a loop to go after power in the game, whether that was the power to harvest more resources or the earlier ability to get your hands on legendary weapons and purchase the power there. Then, the Age of Sorcery Chapter 3 introduced golems, another source of power in the realm of the exiled lands. So as you can see, with the Age of Sorcery, each one of those chapters introduced a new reason to get back into the game and see how that mechanic worked, see if you like that mechanic. Does it make my life easier? Does it make the game easier? Can I go into combat with all these different things? Now, if we look at the Age of War, which sounds much more ominous, it actually sounds much more geared towards power chase, right? We have a war coming and we should be amassing power. And so I thought when we were getting the Age of War, well, we're going to see some new equipment, we're going to see some new items, and that'll be good for the game. But we didn't. The only new items and equipment that have been added to the game are locked behind either the Battle Pass or the Bazaar Store paywall. We didn't receive any new items. Sure, we got rebalancing to items that are there, but we could say that was the fault of Funcom not balancing the items all the way along. You see, in my mind, there's no reason for me to go back into the game and see what Balpator's razor has settled on at this point in time for damage and armor pen, because it's not new and exciting. I just don't have the same drive to jump back into the game just to see something that has been broken for some time finally revamped and reinvigorated to where it probably needs to be today. Unfortunately, as I look at the Age of War so far, it really seems to be that this is just a revamp or a rework of the systems that were already there. Which leads me to think and believe that not a lot of players are going to be super excited to come back for the Age of War. There's just no draw to come back and see what's going on because there's no new loot item to go after to make your gameplay better. Additionally, I feel like the constant reworking of systems is just outplayed at this point in time, and it needs to stop. There needs to be a settle point where Funcom says, this is the design, this is the way we like it, and we're going to leave it that way. There's no reason that over the last year, we have had almost 4 different changes to stamina. There is no reason to look at the game and say, well, we don't see people engaging in the content enough, so we're going to change the way that the durability works so that you have to go back out and get these legendaries over and over again. Honestly, you don't know your player well enough if you think that people are going to do that. What they're going to do is they're going to write off legendaries like they did before when you couldn't repair legendaries, and they're simply going to hand them to their thrall and let their thrall use them. The player will use some other weapon that they're able to repair. The additional points in damage from what you can craft to what you can actually get in a legendary is not enough to put it in your own hands and then be at the fate of RNG to get that legendary back. People will just give that to their thrall and they'll continue to use what they can craft and repair. If you guys have been following my channel for any amount of time, you know I cover each and every one of these updates, and I really had a hard time with this particular update. I just couldn't find it in myself to cover this update because I just didn't feel like going into the game and partaking in what was added to the game, because it really isn't a whole lot. There's a new loot loop for sure where you go and you find the treasures, and that's eventually going to have some effect on the purge. But at this point in time, what is the point? What is the point of going and getting all this new loot if I have to wait 3 months in order to see that come to fruition? I'm sure that the loot loop is probably maybe 10 hours worth of work in the game. 10 hours worth of work in the game does not constitute 3 months waiting to see what that work pays off for. And don't even get me started on the thralls. I know there's some thralls out there that other creators have covered that everybody is saying is god tier. And by all means, you can run out and stock up on those thralls. But I can guarantee that in Chapter 2 or Chapter 3, those thralls' numbers will be changed. There is no way that a thrall from Noob River should have a higher damage modifier than a thrall from the volcano or from the north area. It's just a bug, and it's something that's going to be reverted down the road, and I don't feel like covering something that I know is going to change within the next 3 months. But by all means, if you feel like you need a Thugra or a Cannibal Brute in your life, go out, grab 1, grab 3, whatever you want to do, level them up because they're easy levelers, and when the next chapter or the next patch comes out that reverts that, you really only have the time lost that you spent changing them into your thrall. And I know this has been a ranty video. I appreciate you guys sticking with me and listening to my thoughts on it. Was there something in the Age of War Chapter 1 that drew you back into Conan Exiles? If so, what was it? Because I'm having a hard time putting my finger on anything that feels like it's special in this patch. There's some reworked systems, there's some new loot to put in a new loot room, but beyond that, we really don't see anything new with this patch, and for me, that's a big problem. So I thought it was important, for one, to get the message out to Funcom that I don't feel like they really hit the bullseye with this patch. In fact, I don't think they even came close to the bullseye, maybe even off the dartboard with this one. And if Chapter 2 and 3 are subsequently this lackluster, I think that they are on the wrong path for Conan Exiles, and they're going to see a lot of players hemorrhage out of the game because of those kinds of decisions, and I want them to be aware of that before it comes, so that maybe they can change path and make a better product. They have to have some sort of draw back to the game, and it can't just be a loot loop and a revamp of systems. At the end of the day, Conan Exiles will always have a special place in my heart, and I'm not just saying all this to beat up on the devs. I'm saying this because I want them to avoid making mistakes in the game that could cut its life short, and I feel like not having additional content in the game, not having a reason to bring players back, is certainly a way to shorten the game's life dramatically. I'd like to thank all my YouTube members for your continued support. Y'all are absolute legends. If you'd like to become a legend, there's a button that says join on this page. Click that for details. There's 2 videos on the screen. Click one of those to watch next, and I'll meet you over there.